Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast. I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Susie Taaffe. Susie, excited to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Gresh. So excited to be here.
Yes, I'm excited as well too. And you're doing so many phenomenal things. We had a great conversation. So obviously, before we jumped into the interview, I want to read a little bit more about Susie so you can hear about some of those awesome things. And Susie is the CEO and founder of Skanties, anti-shapewear, dedicated to empowering people to embrace their natural form, reject unnatural beauty standards, and celebrate their unique and beautiful bodies. Susie is at the forefront of the anti-shapewear movement, which rejects prolonged body compression and the use of non-breathable synthetic materials that can have harmful effects. With her decade experience working as an engineer and having designed and manufactured her own maternity clothing brand, Susie successfully launched Skanties in the Australian market in 2019 as a single mother of three children. Having launched Skanties in the US market in 2023, Susie continues to expand this global movement, remaining dedicated to helping women reclaim their feminine power through fashion and to empower people to love themselves from the inside out. And I absolutely love the conversation I had with Susie, and she has a awesome energy and a really, really inspiring story. So I think we're really going to love this interview and hearing about all the phenomenal things that she's doing. And I think one of the things that really stood out to me is that she's really mission driven. She mentioned in something that I was reading before we did this interview that she wanted to help people feel better and found her products and services as a way to do that. So, Susie, excited to have you on the show. Even more excited about all the awesome things you're doing. Are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
Definitely ready to speak. What you got?
Awesome. Let's get it started then. So, to try to kick things off, I wanted to rewind the clock a little bit, hear a little bit more on how you got started, what I call your CEO story.
Well, I suppose it started with me soul searching, I suppose, an unexpected divorce, and then me soul searching about what's life about? Like what are we here for? Like what is it? What are we doing? And from that I found that we're basically here to serve others, but at the same time in a passion, purpose-filled way. So I started to look at my life and I was saying, what can I do that can help other people, but also makes my heart sing? And obviously, when you're happy and purpose-filled, then your energy becomes infectious. So whatever you're doing, and if you can then add in the serving of others to help others, and it's really interesting because I was talking to someone and they were talking about there's a Japanese saying, and they say we've got it all, us Westerners, we've got it all wrong. When we feel bad, we want to go out and buy something, and we do that consumer sort of led thing, and the Japanese, they have a saying, it's if you feel bad or had a bad day, he said go and help someone else. And he said that's going to make you feel like, it's giving me goosebumps right now, because that's something that's going to make you still feel good tomorrow. There's no purchase regret on helping another person. So I suppose it's the same premise, that if you can do that something every day that can help someone else, you're going to feel good in your heart. So I looked at my life. I was a newly single mom. There were 5, 3, and 1. My expertise was in, we call it FIFO engineering. So where you fly in, fly out. So it's like 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And into like far western Australia, which is far western Queensland, which is like middle of the desert. So with kids that age, that wasn't an option. But it also, when I was looking at my timeline of life, like I could do it, but it didn't make my heart sing. Like I know I was helping probably maybe someone's gas burner down the road somewhere, but it wasn't a direct impact. And so my product Skanties, I'd actually created for myself about 8 years ago, and I'd never really thought of them as a commercial viability. It was at the end of my maternity clothing manufacturing career. When we were shutting down that business, I quickly was like, I just need something. Basically, and the original pair didn't look anything like the final pair, but I wanted something. At the time, I got terrible chafing, which I can promise you makes you feel awful about yourself. There's no good story is going on in your head when your thighs are chafing. I can promise you that. So I'd made something, and then a few people had just spoken to me about stuff and about how did I wear skirts all the time and you don't get chafing. I said, I do, I wear these. And at the time there was nothing that you could actually buy. And so because it's such a shameful topic, I suppose, that I love that we're starting to talk about it more, But it's so shameful. It's not, you don't sit around having a cup of tea talking about how bad your chafe was. So it wasn't a conversation that women were having. So I didn't even know that I was the only one who had it. And that was sort of light bulb
Mm.
moment. There's other women that get that. And I know how precious my product was to me. And I thought, okay, well, this is an idea. You could actually make this into a big, like a global expansion to actually help with this would make other women who get your same problem, that would make them help them feel better. And so yeah, that's where I actually thought, well, yeah, let's have a go at this, because I know I can be helping people feel better about themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love and appreciate you, sharing that story and that journey. And often when we go through those periods in life, those inflection points, I guess you can call them, you have to kind of look at things differently. And I think it's so powerful that you brought what I'm going to call an abundant mindset to it. Because I think so many times we think, oh, what can really set my soul on fire? Or what can I do to make a living? But to be able to marry those two, to not think that you have to choose either or, but you're gonna have to do both and be able to have that conversation with yourself and have that moment, that period. I think it's something that we all should kind of hold on and really listen to and heed, because if we think in either or, we're thinking in, I think, somewhat of a limited mindset. So it sounds like you've been able to kind of run from there.
Oh, I look back on it, I think you're crazy. But when you felt like, I think, and it's been tricky, like it's been an 8-year road or something that I've been doing this
Mhm.
for, and there's been so many setbacks, etc. But each time when I'm sitting in there and I'm like, oh, like crying on the kitchen floor or whatever, it's something inside of me was just like, but it has to work, because it, like, I was so internally led that it has to work because it helps people. It was sort of, there was like this inner guiding light that was just, it was bigger than me, and it was like, come on, get up. You can have your tears now and then get back up again. This has to work. So I think that has helped me to keep going, because it hasn't been an easy journey, but it does help you to keep going when you're coming from that place. And it's a knowing, really, I suppose.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And a lot of times I hear that around, anytime you're starting a business or start hoping to grow a business, do you have to love it? And of course, the answer is no, you don't have to love it. But sometimes it's because it's so hard, it's so difficult. You have to go through so many peaks and valleys and all the things in between, probably more valleys than you do peaks. You want to love it because sometimes that's the only fuel to the fire that will keep you going and keep you kind of motivated.
Oh, definitely, 100%.
Absolutely. So I love, hearing about like how you, I think the phrase is, you hear a lot about scratch your own itch, where you end up creating something that you need and then kind of run from that. So I wanted to drill down a little bit more into what you're doing at Skanties, how you're making that impact and how you're helping people there.
Yes, so we actually ended up adapting what I originally created. I spoke to heaps of women to find out exactly, to make sure, and I actually ended up encompassing more problems that women face that I don't personally face. So I ended up being able to roll the product into like sort of a 3-in-1. So it stops chafe, but it also stops muffin top at the top, and it also has a big cotton panel. So it's actually like cotton underwear mashed up, so it's really hygienic, and lots of women are susceptible to infections if they have anything synthetic. So it's really like a mashup of 3 issues women face. So it's sort of like picking from everything. And I suppose though, but where Skanties, what I think is our driving force is that anti-shapewear movement. So yes, we've got a product, but the product is really just a tool. So Skanties is really about teaching people to love themselves as they are right now, and to like reject societal norms of shapewear. And some of them have even like 2 pairs of shapewear. Like after COVID, I'm like, what are you doing to these poor women? Like, their form is actually beautiful. If you look at the sculptures of Venus and the goddess of beauty, she is not wearing 2 pairs of Spanx. You know what I mean? She's curvy and gorgeous and beautiful. So that is our messaging more. And then the Skanties are really just a tool. So you can, it's more like, it's like an invisibility cloak. It's sort of like a cloak that you put, a confidence pants or something that you put on. So then that you don't have muffin top, you don't have chafe, you're breathing freely. So then you can get about and go about loving your body and being on your day, as opposed to be reminding of those 3 things that might start to start that negative chatter cycle, because we all know it's hard to spiral out of that cycle. So they're sort of like, yeah, they're like the invisibility of those issues. They disappear, and then you can just go on being who you are.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And having like that the Harry Potter invisibility quote and being able to kind of put that on and change things. But I think it's so powerful because a lot of times we can get so caught into the products and service what we're doing within our organization, but you almost want to drill down more and know why you're doing the things that you're doing. And I think that as you talked about so well, when you were building everything, starting everything, you were opening up conversations that weren't happening, and it sounds like that's kind of been a lot more of that foundation, the why around the organization of having those conversations that sometimes people don't want to have about like their self-image, about how they appreciate all those things that sometimes we look in the mirror and don't appreciate who we are, the things that we do. Open up the doors to have those conversations and to really love and appreciate yourself and have that product be able to support that mission.
Yeah, definitely. I think that our generation is, and obviously I've got children, I've got two daughters and a son. So for me, body image and the conversations, how we talk to ourselves is so important, because I think the generation above us were taught different things. So I think it's our generation that's stopping that. I want to stop that shame cycle, and then we don't repeat it. If they've never heard me speak badly about my body, the chances they're going to speak badly about their body minimize drastically. Like, it's not going to completely eliminate it, but if other people like me are talking about it, and we can get all the other people of our generation to start this new conversation about acceptance. And do you know what? I actually also I've just really lately noticed our bodies actually cop a lot, don't they? Like, they are actually like the bashing ground for everything we
Yeah.
feel internally about ourselves. I really noticed that lately, and it's taken me this long to realize the correlation. But anything we feel bad about ourselves, we sort of 3D project onto our physical form. So I've just really noticed that it's actually even bigger than body acceptance. It's about self acceptance and the inner you and who are you.
Yeah, absolutely. You hear that so many times that a lot of times if something is happening on your in your body or within your body, it's a sometimes a reflection of the things that are going on internally, things that we're thinking, things that we're feeling. So many those things happen, and I appreciate you talking about that. And again, like how that's embedded within, I want to call it the DNA of the organization, and how you're able to kind of see like how important that is, and how this tool kind of creates this cycle where I think if you're not going through those three challenges, then you feel better about yourself. You're able to talk to yourself better, and that helps you out internally. And it just creates this really phenomenal cycle that people can be in.
Yeah, well, that's 100% it.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, would you consider that to be what I like to call your secret sauce? It could be for yourself, the business, or a combination of both. But is it that ability to kind of recognize that, but of course, be able to execute on that with your product and the mission and the vision? Do you feel like that's part of your secret sauce?
Oh, what 100%. It's definitely the secret sauce, because I actually don't even care if I sell product. If I can reach someone with this message and they can turn their brain and change the conversation they're having, then I'm successful. So it is totally the secret sauce.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I almost wondered, like, because I know you have that background I read in your bio of being an engineer. I've always seen engineers as the ultimate and consummate problem solvers. Do you feel like that's been like it sounds like you heard this, you see this, and you're like, oh, this is a problem. Oh, this is a problem. You're like, I'm gonna create and solve something for this. Do you feel like that fuels you and has helped you be able to say, hey, let's have these tough conversations and let me also start to change the narrative from there?
Oh, I definitely have an engineering brain. I'm always trying to solve problems. There's always people are coming to me like, okay, what's your problem? Okay, yeah, let's do that. Yeah, definitely. I can't stop solving problems, actually.
Yeah, I love that. And then, that ends up creating like a great product. But again, it ends up creating like a whole, I'm going to use the word movement around all the things that you're doing.
Yes, definitely. I suppose because each thing is an individual problem. That's what I say, is that's just a tool for those three problems. But there's so many more problems within the barrel, I suppose, the cooking pot of what we have there. So it's not just that just ticks the physical problems. And so you don't have to think about them, but that's what I love to solve that's loving to solve the problems from an emotional and a mental and a physical, spiritual way as well.
Yeah, because again, it ends up being a cycle, and you sometimes it's like the question of the chicken and egg. Did the chicken or the egg come first? But at the end of the day, as long as you're helping out in some form, shape, or fashion, I believe it creates this cyclical cycle where cyclical cycle. It
Yeah.
creates a cycle where things end up being a lot better.
Yeah. See, yeah, the product's just the barn.
Yeah,
The chicken
yeah.
and the egg going.
Exactly, exactly. So, absolutely love that. So, I wanted to switch gears a little bit and I want to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So, this could be like an app, a book, or even a habit that you have, but what's something that makes you more effective and efficient?
Okay, definitely surround yourself with other other people running businesses. That's my
Yeah.
hack because they know you don't know what you don't know, and they can condense a book that might take you a week to read into one coffee. Do you know what I mean? They'll tell you the bits that are
Yeah.
relevant. And I also think that there's a lot of synchronicities as well. Like someone knows what you need to hear at the right time, and you probably have something that you know that they need to hear. So I think definitely connection with other people doing the same thing. But in different businesses, it doesn't matter. Just it just seems to happen. And I've just started working with a great friend who's in a completely different industry, and I can help her with her business and she helps me with mine, even though we know nothing about the respective industries. So that definitely. And then my two books is De-Escalate, How to De-Escalate an Angry Person by Douglas Knoll. It's
Mm,
really about listening. It's about
mm,
hearing what people are saying, and and it's listening without words basically, and then how to emote back to the person who's speaking how they're actually feeling. And I've only just recently met Doug, and I've been practicing it on people and on my kids, and it makes people feel heard. So I think the number one thing we want in this world is to feel heard and valued, I suppose, and feeling heard is the first step in feeling valued. And I think it's just a fantastic book that everyone should read. And then, as we were talking about the Atomic Habits, I've only just picked that up, and it's about to become my Bible. I just think it is the way, especially for someone like CEOs and well, someone like me. I've got stuff going on all in my head. I've got all these things, but it's like a recipe for how to insert the bits into where you need to in your day and create a routine, which basically just lines you up for success. So I'm super excited for 2024 and to enact that book.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. We were definitely geeking out about that before we started, and I think that so many times, and I always butcher the quote, but it's like your minutes become your days become your weeks become your months become your years, and so on and so forth. And what I absolutely love about the Atomic Habits books is it lets you understand how you can start to take control of your day to day activities by the habits that you're doing. And we all have habits. It's just a matter of how can you kind of re-engineer, I guess, them to work in your favor so that you can kind of ultimately reach your goals.
Yeah, it's genius.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the word the book de-escalate as well too, because I think that so many times you hear that around customers as well too, is that a lot of times your angry customers are the customers you want to talk with the most because sometimes they're frustrated. But if you're able to have those conversations, or not even have those conversations, have those listening ears, as you said so well, then that provides a source of really great opportunity to really like learn from them to grow. But we find that in so many different ways in life. Sometimes when we get to that emotional level, it's because we're just kind of overblown with whatever feeling that we might have. And if we have somebody that actually listens to us and understands us, then again, that's a great seed for those conversations.
Oh, you're so right. I would say some of my angriest customers are the ones that are now my biggest promoters, because
Mm.
recognizing that their anger is not actually about you and that one little shit. It's a big bag of irritant and anger and stuff at a million different things. But if you can be the person that, and this is another problem. So if you can be the person that actually listens, make them feel heard and appreciated and valued, it is amazing at the difference that you cause. And that's what
Yeah,
Doug is all about. He's like, it's about the ripple effect. If you can do that to what de-escalate one person, like the ripple effect that goes out from that, I've got goosebumps again, is just
yeah.
so. And he's like on a peace mission by de-escalating the anger in people, and so that we can just have a more peaceful community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like a lot of, source of that, is the lack of listening, the lack of caring. The quote, people don't care how much you know, so they know how much you care. And I think once we have a lot more of that caring, that paying attention, listening to people, valuing people, as we've been talking about, and you brought up, I think it really starts to change the world person by person and, world by world, city by city. It all starts to snowball from there.
Oh, definitely.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I wanted to switch gears and go into what I call a CEO nugget. A little bit more word of wisdom or piece of advice. It might be something you would tell your younger business self if you were to hop into a time machine.
Ooh, if I was going to hop into a time machine, I always think, would I have done anything differently? And the answer is always no, because you have to learn your lessons and stuff, and I'd rather learn them when I did than learn them down the track. So I think
Mhm.
everything has been on the path, has been there perfectly. I think the biggest nugget is it's going to be hard, but you can do it, and it's how you pick yourself back up, which is the golden nugget, I suppose. Yeah, you can give amazing advice for when you're doing well, but it's when things are tough. And I think breathing is really good. Breathing. And also take, if you feel stressed and overwhelmed, I think like a 5 minute meditation or a 15 minutes, if you've got that, just to reset, it changes. Or maybe, and grounding, get your feet in the ground, do your meditation with your feet in the grass if you can, or somewhere outside. I think those little tips, because you've got to bring yourself back down to keep going. So I think it's that real emotional regulation, I suppose. But yeah, don't be afraid to take 5 minutes or 15 minutes out to meditate and close your eyes and just regroup yourself, I think would be my golden nugget.
I love that, and especially because I think so many times when we're going through this journey of life, and even especially of business, I love that you talked about in the hack about being around people that are going along that journey and having those conversations, even if they're not on the same exact industry or same exact path. Because I feel like when you go through the first valley, sometimes the valley after that and valley after that, you're like, am I doing this wrong? But if you have an understanding, or a lot of times with conversations with others, you realize that you're not doing it wrong. Sometimes that's just part of the journey. That's how it goes. And it starts to kind of normalize that. It never, I guess, feels good, but you start to say that, okay, this is part of the journey. And you feel like you're not doing it wrong. But I love the practicality of being able to take time, take a breath, to breathe, to regulate that energy and that those emotions as you talked about, because that allows us to really come back and realize, hey, it might just be a bad day. It's not a bad life. It's not a bad business.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. You need to take a step back sometimes and look at the bigger picture and also celebrate where you've come from. I think we as
Mm.
CEOs never ever do that enough. We are always looking at the next peak. How am I going to get up there, as opposed to turning around and actually saying, "Oh wow, I can see, like, yeah, that was a tough year, but look what you put in place and look how you managed to get through that." And actually really take time to, yeah, we're so busy chasing it, aren't we? We keep moving the goalposts to where we want to be, and we need to say, actually, no, you got that goal, you just moved it. So yeah, I think that's good too.
Yeah, I feel like you're reading my autobiography over there, because I think we sometimes run into that where if you reach a goal, you feel like you didn't push it far enough. If you push it far enough, you're discouraged because you didn't reach a goal. And I know we talked a little bit about this offline before, and I think that that could be a cycle where you don't create that really great opportunity to continue to kind of build upon that, because you're always like kind of disciplining yourself, maybe for lack of a better word. You're
Yeah,
never really giving yourself the opportunity to celebrate how far you've gone. And I think if you're always on the next thing, you're never looking at, hey, how far you've gone, or even in the present, and how that ends up being so much of a gift.
definitely. And I do actually think that connecting with other business people as well, they help you to see it through different eyes as well, and which is amazing, because yeah, it can be such like it can be quite lonely being a CEO.
Yeah.
So when you can see yourself through other people's eyes is an amazing gift as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you've ever see that Spider-Man meme where Spider-Man's pointing, and then Spider-Man's pointing back at Spider-Man, and it's like, "Hey, what I'm going through, you're going through," and that's how you end up being around business owner. The thing that you're struggling with, sometimes the other person's struggling with, is like, I see it in you, and I see it in you too, because you can see it in me, and it ends up being like, okay, we understand each other. We're speaking the same language.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, wanted to ask you now my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And our goal is to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So, Susie, what does being a CEO mean to you?
Oh, being a CEO means chaos. Chaos, but a privilege to be able to do what I do and share what I can share. It's an absolute privilege to be able to, I suppose, be creating this movement and being at I suppose, in the pilot seat of it all, and being able to direct where it can go and just the expanse of it all. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, I love that. You know, you end up being. I often compare it to like being with a paintbrush and then canvas and being able to kind of paint that canvas in the way that you see fit. But I love that word chaos because I feel like there's such a misconception around success and how people achieve success and what success looks like. I always say it's much more like a plate of spaghetti than that straight path that we sometimes think it is. And when you see the round and round, and a lot of times you think you're going ahead, but you're going back where you started. Sometimes that happens during the process, but again, I think and I appreciate you talking about these things and talking about, how the challenges and the journey and what that looks like, because I think that there's not enough conversation around the challenge that it can be around building a business or building anything, honestly.
Definitely. There's spaghetti and then you'll hit a meatball.
Exactly. Exactly. Not the good ones either. Perfect. Well, Susie, truly appreciate that definition. Of course, I appreciate your time even more. So, what I wanted to do now is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional that you want to let our readers and listeners know. And of course, how best people can get a hold of you, find about all the awesome things that you're working on.
Oh, thank you so much, Gresh. It was a great conversation. We are at Skanties.co, and our Instagram is just Skanties, Skanties, or we're on Facebook and sort of TikTok. We're learning TikTok. I'm old generation. I'm the old generation on TikTok, so my daughter won't teach me the noises. Apparently, it's embarrassing.
No, that's funny. But we, of course, we'll make it even easier by having the links and information in the show notes so that everybody can get a hold of you. But I truly appreciate, all the awesome things that you're doing, the time you took today. I think so many times we forget that when we're creating our products and services, as much as we want to create really phenomenal and awesome products and services, that why ends up being our fuel. And when we can realize that the thing that we're doing is not just impacting the product that we're creating, but it's impacting the people that are going to be using and leveraging the products. That's when we go to an entirely different level. So thank you so much for reminding us of that, and I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Thank you, Gresh, for having me. It's been great.